It's like you need to have the structures, you need to have the direction, you need to have the vision, you need to be proactive. Like, you can't be sitting in a bathtub all day and just expect like money to rain on you like a lot of these people have made it seem, right?
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Ramsey, the host of the Empire Life podcast, and we mentor women from all around the world, female founders who are super scaling their businesses. And today I'm with Amanda Abella, and I'll hand it over to her to introduce herself a little bit more.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Abella. I'm known as one of the top female sales trainers online. I'm the founder of Make Money Your Honey, and basically my company exists to help women get the tools and the mindset that they need in order to dominate in traditionally male-dominated spaces, especially sales. So we're known for sales training of actual sales skills like handling objections, how do I close, how do I have this conversation. We're known for teaching sales process, like how do you move a social media follower to qualifying, to enrolling, to follow up. And then recently, we've also been teaching a lot on sales systems. So Allison and I were just talking about how I named my funnel Teresa because she sells 24/7. She's our hardest working salesperson on the team.
I love it. I love your crown too. And you are also a previous client of Empire Life. And I really enjoyed working with you and supporting you and seeing your growth now. It was in 2021 and seeing your growth now and talking to you. I feel like we can talk forever and
forever. Yeah.
Forever. And there's so much synergy, and I completely support you now too and what you're doing in your business. And I would like to dive into that more because we started talking in the green room about surrendering this feeling of I need to do everything myself, especially as female business owners, and letting go of some of the control around when we start to feel resistance come up with wanting to be in control of everything or do everything, do all the things ourselves, like picking up kids or writing all the blogs, writing all the emails, taking all the client calls, doing all the things, cooking all the meals, cleaning the kitchen, all these things that women are juggling in the air, a lot of the female business owners. How do we start the process of letting go of some of that control and that resistance?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say that I totally understand because this was really hard for me. And I also want to say that oftentimes this is subconscious programming. And that was my experience. And it's also what I've seen with a lot of clients. So for me, what happened, and when you and I worked together and you helped us get some of our marketing systems squared away, I consciously knew that I was trying to build something that could run without me. I consciously knew that that's what I was trying to build. I consciously knew that that's what I was moving toward. That was the dream, right? My subconscious was not happy with it. So my subconscious found lots and lots of ways to self-sabotage. So my subconscious wasn't happy with it for several reasons. I'll just go into what one of the big ones was for me. There were several, but I'll go into one of the big ones. And oftentimes what I see in women entrepreneurs, it's codependency. Especially online, there's this conversation of I want to make sure everybody's seen and heard. I want to make sure that everybody's included and taken care of, which is wonderful. That's amazing, right? But oftentimes that comes at an expense for women. So the expense looks like still trading time for money. I know you stopped doing that. You stopped doing stuff for people. I stopped doing that years ago. The expense comes at not having team supporting you. The expense comes at not having systems support you. And it will come at a cost. Eventually, like I said, I was moving in this direction consciously, but subconsciously I was resisting it. And I hit wall after wall after wall after wall after wall. And it was a good 6 months of just me having more resistance than I've ever felt in my life, which was very unusual. I usually, me, I'm usually like, oh, okay, whatever. And I go, right? But I just could not go for about 6 or 8 months. Like that whole pushing through things was not working for me anymore. I didn't want to work. I didn't want to deal with my clients. Granted, there was a lot of family stuff going on as well. My dad was sick and in and out of the hospital for about 8 months. He's fine now. But that was all going on at the same time. I realized I had built a business that, although consciously I thought I was building in support systems, I really didn't, because I still had a lot of ego wrapped up in it. So I had to start making different decisions, and those decisions brought up a lot of shit, right? Shit like, well, if I'm a sales trainer, if I'm not doing sales, right? Or if I'm not doing it as much as I used to, like, what are people going to think of me? That was a big one, right? Or, which really in reality makes no sense, because what you want to do is give other people opportunities to step up. And that's the logical thing, right? But in my mind, I'm like, well, if this is what I do and then I'm not doing it as much, like, am I going to lose the skill set? What are people going to think about me? That was one. I think another one was I still had some issues around trying to, like, prove my worthiness to clients, which I see a lot of women get trapped in. No, it needs to be me, right? Or they're going to get upset. It needs to be me or they're going to get upset. Now I really don't care.
Yeah, I on our upcoming mastermind, I put in a caveat, because I started thinking, what if something came up on the day that I have a call with them? I need to build that in.
You need backup built in.
Myself or another coach that I really trust, that I'm going to pay, that's part of the program, because life happens.
Because life happens, right?
It still feels vulnerable, though, to stand something like that, build that in.
Yeah, and life was happening all around me for like 6-7 months. Like, business was exploding, but that came with a lot of problems as well. The dad in and out of the hospital for 8 months, and eventually I just cracked, right? I couldn't function. I was barely functioning. And I was like, I need to make some big changes. So that was one of them, like training other people and letting them step up and learning how to train and develop people who work for you. Oh my God, I could go on many tangents.
Yeah, like
about that and how people do that wrong.
Oh my goodness.
Many tangents on how people do that wrong. And also, like, now the process needs to be repeatable and duplicatable. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of women don't think about. So now in our sales training, we teach a 5-step process that can be plugged into a CRM. You're going to have your scripts ready to go, so that when you do hire people down the road, it's already taken care of and it's going to be easier for you.
Do you use like video training? And
yeah, we do video trainings. We do all that stuff, right? It's mostly video training or group where we're role playing with people. That's what we do. And then we have a bunch of digital products that we sell on. Teresa sells them, our funnel. Our hardest working salesperson sells them. But there was a lot of ego wrapped up in it, right? There was ego, like, if I'm not doing it, who's going to do it? It has to be me. I'm the one, right? And I'd been going around for 3 years saying I didn't want to be the superstar of this, but clearly my subconscious wanted to be the superstar of this, not because it actually wanted to be the superstar, but because it was a worthiness issue. So I think that happens a lot. Yeah, I made, we're afraid of upsetting people. I think another thing that happens a lot is, for me, this was me personally, every time I would start succeeding, I would start feeling very guilty. And I could always kind of ignore it, but then it was like this little voice in the back of my head for a decade plus, right? But then I hit a 6-figure month, and it's like the voice was louder than ever. I was waking up in near panic attacks, like, I was like, this makes no sense. What's going on? Anyway, I got some help for it, and come to find out that I inherited survivor's guilt from my family that fled the Cuban Revolution. Right? So basically, they had to leave countrymen and family behind. And I always had a story in the back of my head that I didn't want to succeed because I felt bad about leaving people behind. I think a lot of people struggle with that one. Maybe your family did flee the Cuban Revolution, right? And it wasn't that bad.
I've had like different kind of readings done. And for me, there was one about sacrifice. Like, you don't deserve this generational pattern where it was telling me, and just unconsciously running until I become aware of it and start to unlayer, take off the layers of it and process what was actually running in my subconscious about, you don't really deserve that unless you sacrifice this. Or unless you're sacrificing and you're not really enjoying it, then maybe you deserve it. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
Like a scarcity feeling. So sacrifice, at least in a similar, maybe a little bit different, kind of similar.
Yeah.
Talking about.
Well, for me, it was like, you're not deserving of it, period, because there's, you got family members who don't have food today or don't have electricity tomorrow. Or so it was like very weird, because on the one hand, it's where I got a lot of resilience from and a lot of appreciation for the tools that are available to me in the United States. Like I always say, if you're not making money off the internet, that's your fault.
Yeah.
In front of us, like it's incredible. Basically, utility at this point, with how easily accessible it is. But at the same time, I also got a lot of stories like money equals anxiety, of course, because my grandparents uprooted their whole lives and had to start over in a country where they didn't speak the language in their 40s. Or my parents were uprooted from their home country as children because they had to.
Mm-hmm.
They had to get out. And there was a lot of trauma and suffering that happened there. And so for me, it was like, you don't deserve it. I was also raised Catholic, so that probably has something to do with it. Yeah. Definitely a lot of conversation about guilt and shame.
Yeah, I mean, my mom is super Catholic. It's more like German Catholic, but I still, if I start talking about it, or just even recently, I was telling her, what was I telling her? I said, I'm going to leave a legacy. This is what I'm going to do. And she's starting to see the fruits of that and understand it more. At first, she's kind of
sure. It's a boberia. That's just you in your head. That's you.
Yeah,
your head and
sure. We all just, are trying to get by, and you're telling me this, like, sure. But then over the years, she's starting to see the fruits of that. And the other thing she was telling me, just make sure that you still think about the people who don't have anything. And I'm like, I do. Start my own foundation, eventually related with the cause that I'm really passionate about.
But you have to save yourself first. That's what people don't realize.
Yeah, I think, like your crown, we're all queens of our own fortress. And we all, even if it's just ourselves in our house, if we live by ourselves, we're still building something.
Yeah.
And we have a fortress, in my opinion.
We'll get to hustling versus building. Remind me, right? Because you just brought up a very good point. And then the final thing that I had a lot of resistance, well, two things, letting people help me. So I had mentors and also friends who'd been telling me for 6 months, Amanda, just get a bunch of JVs and build a giant referral network. And it was not computing, right? Like the idea of people sending me leads was not fucking computing in my head. I don't know why. I don't know what was going on. It just wasn't. It was like my mentor says it's like you would tell you and it would just like bounce off my forehead. Like it just did not want to go in there. Because I had a lot of stories around like, am I deserving of this? Am I good enough? Like, is the stuff that we're doing good enough for people to send business over our way like that? So I think that was a part of what was going on. And also, because I grew up in a household, which a lot of immigrants do, where people are not necessarily that emotionally available. Because things are about survival. There were also some stories that I picked up at the age of 7. The things that you desire don't matter. So I had to work through that one, right? This was all in a 6-month period, y'all. It was intense, right? And now is when I have the words to actually talk about it. Letting people step up and help me, that was actually really hard because I was always like, well, I have to do it because nobody else wants to help me because they don't care to help me.
Because if you ask somebody, hey, can you help me with this? And then they act like, I don't really want to. Then you're like, oh, I knew it. I knew it.
And it's like the worst rejection in the world. Like it was horrible rejection, what would feel. And then, I traced it back to when I was a kid. My parents did a fantastic job, by the way. Like our parents are just doing the best that they can. And then the final thing was, when I was building out the funnel, my mentor had put me in contact with a couple of people that I interviewed for my podcast, and they said a couple of really insightful things. One of them was, I look at my business like it's a machine. And I was like, oh my God, this is supposed to be a machine. That makes complete sense. We're supposed to have a machine in the middle, duh. Right? So it was like light bulb moment. And that same person that I was interviewing on that podcast, she caught me calling myself lazy like 3 times. Because I was like, oh, well, I automated this because I'm lazy and I don't want to do things I don't have to do. She goes, you're not lazy, you're hyper efficient.
Exactly.
And then we just ended up having a massive aha moment. This podcast is coming out. Well, it'll probably be out by the time this comes out. But this whole moment where she's helping me retrace it back to, I always got in trouble. You know, as a child in school, I was the one who get in trouble for not showing my work. I was a type of student that if I could get away with not doing something, I wouldn't do it, because why am I going to waste my time? I always saw my time as very valuable, right? But then I would get in trouble for it.
It is.
Right?
It is, valuable.
You know, I'd get in trouble at jobs. Actually, my most recent boss, she actually just passed. May she rest in peace. But she was great. She was like a mentor to me. But I remember one time, this is very funny, she used to invite everyone over for Christmas every year. This was even after, this was when she was the one who owned the recruiting agency that I worked for. And she would invite everyone for Christmas every year. She literally said to me one time, this was several years ago, Amanda, you always got the job done, but you'd skip steps. And I was like, but isn't that like the point? Like, why are we doing extra things we don't need to be doing? I don't understand. Right? And then I got in trouble at home. At home, I would get called lazy and selfish. So, of course, I start systematizing things. They start getting easier. I'm not thinking, wow, I'm actually really smart and efficient. I'm thinking I'm lazy and making myself feel bad.
And that snowballs into adulthood.
And it snowballs into adulthood. Right. So I had all this resistance piled up. Right. Now, the good news is I became aware of all of those stories in like a 6-month period. It was extremely painful, though. And the business was like failing while I was going through this, because I could barely function.
Right.
But then, But then eventually I started coming out of it. Right. I started letting people help me. You know this, I built a referral partner network of over 130 people right now. You know, our funnel, Teresa, is doing sales every day. Xenia, who you know, right, who I trained up, and she went through she'd be great to interview too, because she went through her own story of resistance and transformation at the same time, right? Because of course I'm stepping up, so the people who work for me have to step up too. And then that brings up their resistance. Then you have to learn how to lead them and that whole thing.
Yes.
But so she's doing, you know, outbound sales right now as we speak. You know, she went from crying to closing. Sales were thousands of dollars, but like it was a very intense kind of process I had to go through to start moving into this space. And I still got to catch myself sometimes, you know, like, oh, Amanda, shouldn't you be picking up the phone more? Shouldn't you be doing this? Because when you've built an entire business based on hustling versus building, it's very hard and challenging to move into building.
You were doing all those things before and then transitioning
for a decade.
Transitioning out of not doing them anymore. There might be guilt or shame, or what am I supposed to be doing? No, I'm supposed to be doing this. And then you catch yourself, wait, I don't need to be doing that anymore. Wait, that's my old programming. And now I have new ideas, new programming right now. And yeah, that's a good reminder that our work is really never done, that it's still, some of those ideas might still come up, and then we need to rephrase them.
Or reframe, you know, reframe it. So, you know, a year ago, if I had built in like video automations and text automations, I would have been making myself feel like shit, be like, you got to get 100 DMs done today. Right. And then I'm like, well, actually, no, you don't. What you should be doing is getting on Allison's podcast. And she can send traffic your way, or catch up with these referral partners, or get on a live stream if those are really starting to pick up right now. Let Teresa, the funnel, do a lot of the work, right? And then you have a team member now as backup, and she loves it. She wants the opportunity. She wants to step up. Let them do it.
Exactly. Yeah, we just keep building on social media, because we were just looking this last week, and we have over 3 million right now.
Dang!
And in our reach.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
That's my goal.
Like what you said, you know, it's like looking at YouTube and how can we have more people there watching our content? How can we continue to have people coming through this machine, this well-oiled machine that is nurturing them and getting them to the right pathway of what they need?
Yeah,
right. So, and just on Twitter last month, it was over 2.2, I think.
Wow.
And reach just with Twitter.
Congrats.
Twitter is blowing out. Thank you.
Yeah, Twitter's been very active since that whole Elon situation. I'm like, are we still on Twitter death watch? Because this is like more active than ever from what I've seen.
It's incredible. So that means we look at our numbers every month, or I do sometimes more than that. I need to back off a little, but it leads every month. And then we're like, oh, we need to post more on these or be a little bit more active on these because this is where more of our community is. We got the blue check thing too. I got invited.
Well, I've had that for years. I've had that since I was a financial writer. So, yeah. I had friends who used to make fun of me for it. They'd be like, Amanda can do whatever she wants. She has a blue check on Twitter. I'm like, really? It's that big of a deal? Like, I didn't realize, people thought it was like a joke.
You have one of our biggest followings on Twitter.
Like 40,000. A lot of it is from my finance days. Yeah, a lot of it is from my finance days. But anyway, I want to make something clear. I know your audience is a little bit more advanced, but just in case there's somebody listening who's under $250,000, don't even fucking worry about anything we just said about systems.
Yeah.
Yeah. That starts making sense past 250, $500,000, when those things start becoming really big problems and you really have to start working differently and making some decisions. So I actually call it, stepping into the empress, not even queen, right? Because I don't want to be a queen. I want to be the queen of all queens. And I also want to have other queens working for me or sending me business. I want other leaders around me and collaborating with them. So I actually think queen is not even I don't want to say highest pinnacle.
Like, it doesn't do it justice.
It doesn't do it justice. It's really empress.
I love that. That's incredible.
Yep.
Completely agree with you on that. Yeah, we want to be the empress of our lives and have our fortress and making sure that we're taking care of the people in our fortress, and then it being able to have the cup flow over so we can then continue to take care of other people outside of the fortress and expand from there and have a rippling effect. That's my goal. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you more, if you want to go into the empress, more of the empress mindset related with relationships.
With relationships.
So you were talking about that.
Everybody's always asking me about I make a lot of jokes that sales and dating are very similar.
Yeah, they are.
And people love it. Okay, so the empress is an archetype. She's like the divine feminine. Like that is basically what she is. So for example, if we were looking at tarot, I'm looking at a tarot picture here. It's not the traditional one. It's this one's Chinese art, I think, right? I just liked the imagery. But if you were to look at the traditional tarot, the empress, you'll notice a few things, right? So number one, there's a lot of wheat growing under her because she's abundant. Yeah. Somebody had to plant the seeds and work the field. Wasn't necessarily her, though.
It's true.
Right? Wasn't necessarily her, but somebody had to do it. And there's like abundance everywhere. The other thing you'll notice is there's debate about this. She might be pregnant. In the traditional tarot, it's kind of ambiguous where you kind of don't know, right, in the way that it's drawn, but meaning she's always creating. And then she's the counterpart to the divine masculine. So the way that you would look at it in business, and then we can transfer it over to relationships. In business, right, like Teresa, my funnel would be the masculine, right? She is working 24/7. We have to be proactive in business, and we need to have the structures in place. That's working hard, right? So I've had a lot of male mentors, and I will stop what they're telling me as soon as it sounds like working harder than I have to. Because I'm much more about how do we make the process as efficient as possible, and that's more of the feminine.
And that takes a little bit more time sometimes. Sometimes the masculine takes like,
more time.
Just go do it. Go do it.
Just go do it. Just go do it. Like I have a friend, right, who was like, well, just do like 100 DMs a day, and then, you'll have all these referral partners. And I'm like, great, I'm going to do that for 2 months, and then I'm going to find one person who will introduce me to 250, and I will never have to do this again because it'll just snowball. And that's exactly what happened within a week.
It's incredible. Yes.
But me saying that's exactly what happened. So in business context, right, it's like you need to have the structures, you need to have the direction, you need to have the vision, you need to be proactive. Like, you can't be sitting in a bathtub all day and just expect like money to rain on you, like a lot of these people have made it seem, right?
Yeah.
At the same time,
I just tune out when I see that.
I just tune it out because it's not real.
True. Yeah, it's not
fucking real, right? And an empress and a queen, they're actually very grounded. And a lot of people don't realize that. So then the other parts of it is like, okay, well, now let's talk about the feminine parts of business. That's like the attraction marketing. So you don't have to like hustle as hard. You still got to be proactive. I still got to follow up with people. I still got to reach out to them. But the feminine will just automate the whole damn thing. So I don't have to physically do it.
Yes.
Because she's about the process, right? We're going to work smart around here. She's also very relational, you know? So things like building referral partner networks work really well because it's all about collaboration. You know, and it's how the two work together. I'm obsessed with the integration of masculine and feminine in business and how they work together. So because the obsession started in business, then I got a little bit of an obsession of how this relates to relationships, right? And I started to realize, oh, well, I mean, and this is one of my most popular YouTube live streams, I said, if you want to receive more in business, start by receiving more from men.
That's great.
Because they want to solve all your problems and they want to help you. They really want to.
I describe it like taking, like there's a space between a man and a woman. You're bringing this up for me that I've explained to a lot of clients. If they ask me, a lot of times their dating life comes up when I'm mentoring because it's so similar and connected, like you're saying, with marketing and sales and their businesses, that like there's this space between a man and a woman. And there doesn't need to be as much of like a rubber band kind of yo-yoing for the woman.
Right.
Yeah. It's okay for her to take a deep breath and kind of come back and be grounded in her space and leave that space for the man.
Yes.
See, is he going to move forward? Is he going to be proactive or take action? Or is he going to also come back or move away from the woman?
Yeah.
And that's okay. Because the woman is still in her space. She's not moving forward to try to force them to do something. She's allowing it.
Yeah.
She's allowing the abundance. Or there's another person who maybe is a good fit for her. And because she's allowing that space, that other person can even come in that space. Well, that's kind of the metaphor, how I like the imagery.
I mean, that's good imagery. That's good imagery. And I'm thinking about something that happened to me this week. I had a referral partner who I'd sent an email to last week. And he's like, hey, if you don't hear from me, follow up. Right. Because it means I didn't see it. So anyway, the weekend happened. I was busy yesterday building something out. And then yesterday I was like, oh shit, I forgot to email him. Right. I was like, whatever, leave it until tomorrow. First thing this morning, I got a response from him. I didn't have to, go do that. I think with the feminine, there's also, you know what I mean? Now that's not the case with everything, right? And so I think it's also about knowing, which energy is appropriate when. I really don't like this conversation online that a lot of women have about the way men do business is fucked up. I don't want to do it the way they do it. No, the way some men do business is fucked up, right? Not all men. And they will often, it's really funny because I could say the exact same thing that a man will say, right? Same thing. Here are the numbers. Here's what you got to do. All that kind of stuff. They'll take it from me, but they won't take it from a man. And I find that really interesting and really fascinating because since I had to learn from men, mostly, I have a very deep respect for them. And I was like, oh, they want to solve your problems. They want to lead. They want to make sure you're good and you're okay. Some of our best referral partners are men because they hear what I do and they're like, oh my God, you're trying to get sales training out to women. What can we do to help you? Like they understand the power that we have. We're the ones who don't fucking understand it.
Yes. And I think supporting one another too in that power, being like, I'm comfortable with you being huge or big, showing up in this big way, making a lot of money. From one woman to another, I'm comfortable with you doing that.
Yeah, I've actually had less pushback from men than other women.
Yeah, I've had a similar experience a lot of times. Or even in jobs where I found it to be less gossipy, or catty or backstabbing.
That's all shadow feminine stuff. I call her the basic biatch. And I say we all start there, and sometimes we go into basic biatch behavior, right? But
I think
to evolve.
Yeah, I evolved also because I think I used to, when I was younger, which related to things with my mom and sometimes friction there, I used to think maybe I don't get along with women that well. And
I started thinking that at some point last year, because what happened last year was, because after I went through this process, I really started finding my voice. I'm sure you've seen some of my Facebook posts where I've gotten to that level of I don't give a fuck, I got nothing to lose, I've been through too much.
I love it. Yeah, I love
right.
I'm in there. I'm there with you. I've been there.
Yeah, I literally don't give a shit. Like, I don't care anymore. I've been through too much. I've sacrificed too much. I've put in the work. Like, I'm about to really take up all the motherfucking space right now. Yeah. And in the beginning, women had a problem with it. In the beginning, right? Now I'm getting lots of thank yous. Oh my God, thank you so much. Same message that I was saying it's the same message I was saying 3 years ago and no one was listening. But now I think women are ready to hear it. They want the truth.
Yeah, they do. And also you accepting that part of yourself and all the space that you take up. And I'm here. This is me. You're attracting then people who are going to accept that too.
Yeah, and I knew that. I think it's just while I was going through that process, it's like, man, I have all these things to say, but I don't have the words. Right. And I would feel it like stuck here in my throat. Like there's stuff I wanted to say, but I just didn't have the words to articulate it. And then after I went through that process, and then suddenly it's like I had the words. And people just didn't like the words at first. You know, like I will still have someone occasionally, like I did a post recently, I think you saw it, where I'm like, listen, here is sales math. Okay. Hashtag facts, not feelings. Sales math. You want a functioning business. Here are the numbers that you're looking at. Most women were like, "Thank you so much," because I like they had there's something I don't want to misspeak, but there's something like a RSD or something. Like there's some sort of like now disorder around rejection or something like that, where rejection. I haven't heard of it. A death to them. Yeah, somebody commented. Okay, somebody, and I was like, "What is that?" And then she explained like rejection like feels like a death. Right. But apparently it's like an actual like diagnosed thing now. Right. I didn't know until somebody posted on that. And then she goes, but when I see the numbers, I realize it's not about perfection or the rejection. It's just about getting the numbers done. And I'm like, yes, exactly. But then I have other people comment, mostly women, oh, I don't feel like this is right for me. This sounds like hustle culture. I'm like, you can leave. You don't have to follow my profile.
Yes, you can scroll on if you don't like it.
How long, right? But they get mad when I call that out.
And I feel you're going against like maybe a mentor, because I've had a lot of clients where mentors maybe in the same time that they're my client, they have a different mentor as well, or another one that's more like a spiritual mentor, and they'll tell them you need to do less, or you need to not necessarily care about.
Well, all my spiritual mentors have money, and they'll be like, no, here's how you run a business, ma'am. Like, you need to ground it.
Yeah, that's important to find one that does have money, because that I think money is directly connected with spirituality too. And I see it,
yes,
like energy coming in and out, and it's what we say it is, basically. So if you feel like if light and it's energy, then that's how it's going to be, light coming in and light coming out. And
yeah, and I'll tell you, while I was making those transitions, which I feel like I'm still in them, right? But in the beginning, it did not feel light. It was feeling very heavy. So actually, while we're having this conversation, it's like, yeah, Amanda, you know what it feels like? It feels very light when it just comes, right? Like, you know, you're just supposed to have fun now. The hard part's done. But again, it's that reminder, because, you know, it wasn't fun while I was going through all that, you know?
And there's always going to be times, there's going to be ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And being okay with the ebb and all the different layers. I feel like I'm constantly learning and shedding layers and having moments of crying and like, I don't know if I deserve this, or how is this so successful. Are this is this even real? This is real. How is this really happening to me? Is this really happening? Yeah, I find myself asking those questions and then reminding myself I worked really hard for this, or I've had several businesses, and I know at this point a lot about business and sales and marketing. So like, I do deserve this, and keep having this kind of mantras like, I deserve this. I am wealthy.
You put in the reps to master. And what I find, and I call this out, and some people get mad, right? What I find is most people are not willing to put in the reps to master something.
Yes. And I'm still putting in the reps, and I'm like,
every day.
I've mastered
every day.
Yes, every day. I need to be told that I can do less reps. Like, that's more...
Like, I think my reps are just different. So, like, I'll take sales training as an example. I still train all the time on sales, like every day with my team. But now it's a little bit different because I'm more molding them. So the training that I have to get is more about leadership, not necessarily here's how you handle an objection.
How do I handle more training people faster or more efficiently, right? And guiding them,
right? Or maybe it's around like systems or a process, or like, oh, there's a hole in the process.
Oh,
right. Okay. It's more around that, not necessarily, and I still like, look, I've got books here, I've got stuff. We have every script written out, and I like doing sales because I have a fear of like losing it. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. Right. But there comes a time where you have to really step up. And as the CEO, you're still like number one salesperson. I'll have people tell me all the time, can I just hire salespeople? I'm like, can you close? No, but can I just like hand it off? Then no, because what person is going to stick around if they see that you aren't about your shit and you can't sell your stuff and you haven't validated it? How are you going to train and develop people?
It's so true. How can you even make a script if you yourself haven't done that?
Yeah. So, but that's again wanting to skip mastery or skip the thing that makes them uncomfortable, or the other one that pisses me off. By the way, Allison knows this. I'm super spiritual and very woo-woo. I'm just also very grounded.
The same here.
Right? So it's this idea of alignment. Y'all need to stop using alignment as an excuse to not do things that make you uncomfortable, but that need to get done. Or stop letting your astrology or your human design or your Myers-Briggs or whatever, stop using it as a crutch, as an excuse as to why you can't do things. So for example, I was talking to a sales trainer friend of mine, and we for some reason lately we're both hearing I can't do sales because I'm a projector. I have to like, oh yeah. So I guess with projectors,
interesting.
They have to wait for an invitation, right? Or they have to invite.
Oh, right. With my daughter, I'm a projector.
You don't take that information and say, I can't do the thing that's literally the lifeblood of a business.
Yeah, you have to find a way to create that.
You have to find another way.
There's a back door.
There's a back door, right, to this. So, for example, with me, right, building Teresa, the machine was that I'm a reflector in human design. Apparently, I'm an empath on steroids.
Yeah, my fiance is, and it's like 1% of the population.
Apparently, we're empaths on steroids.
Oh, wow.
Right? That's really what it is. So that's one of the reasons I can't be doing so much one-on-one, right?
Yes.
Or I would rather, not in podcasts, because this is super fun, but like I would rather get in front of thousands of people one time, get it done, have the systems running, and then we know what to do on the back end, rather than constantly exhausting myself. Or I would rather have systems. Like my whole life has turned into systems. I've become obsessed since you and I met. Because it's like, oh,
incredible.
If I have to, so I have a new mantra. If I have to do it more than twice, I'm automating.
Amazing. Amen.
Because I only have so much energy to give.
Exactly. You have a lot of energy, but
there's still only so much of it.
You're admitting that. I think that's hard to admit to myself. Like I only have so much to give.
Yeah, there's only so much to give, right? So if I can systematize it and clients can follow this, and we have our sales training down to within 3 days, they're getting results. Yeah. If I can systematize this, right? And then people can, But people will have resistance because, again, it's that ego. It has to be me. It has to be me. No, what is actually more beneficial, right? You putting this into a system that anybody can follow, or somebody constantly needing you?
Yes.
What is actually more efficient and beneficial?
If life happens, you have a script already, or a Loom video, or some kind of training that you can
write.
And that's we're about out of time, but I think we need to do a part 2.
I think we need to do a part 2. Yeah. And do we have time about firmness versus kindness?
I think we need to
a part 2 for fun.
I have another appointment. Yeah, I'll have another appointment count.
And I gotta do one of my live streams. So okay.
Oh yes. Yeah, we will. And for the people listening, you're gonna have everything underneath with all of Amanda's social media links and her freebie there. That's about how to create this strong network that she has of JV partnerships, and Teresa of your own. And we'll put that under in the show notes. And as always, it's a pleasure talking with you, Amanda.